God. Yes. Great. This is recording. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second of the Turing Way Book Dash May 2025 community share outs. I'm delighted to be joined by people right across the globe who have been working this week on a variety of different projects that we're so excited to share out with you. I am going to hand over to the first person on the list, who have people who have signed up in the shared notes document, which is Richard. Richard, you're up first. Oh, Richard, if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I've just sent a message saying I can't, but we can hear you now, Richard. The floor is yours.
Audio device weirdness. Right. Hello, I'm Richard. Um, I work for the Human Developmental Biology Initiative, which is physically I'm based out of the Babraham Institute. That's a big research consortium, and the work that I've been doing for HTTP for this book dash is related to understanding computational reproducibility. So actually, if I share my screen, it might have a little bit of useful context. So I can just show the issue in the PR that kicked this off. So some time ago now, back in the looks of it, November 2023, I opened this issue to add something to the chapter on computational reproducibility, reproducible computational environments. So things like using Docker and Conda and virtual machines for adding some context about the limitations of those methods and some alternative methods. It ended up being quite a lot of discussion of functional package managers like Nix and Geeks, which solve many of the limitations of those other methods. So there's a pull request, which is I'm in the middle of reviewing some edits. Yes, pull request open now, where I'm looking for some feedback on this. Ariel's been very helpful in correcting various aspects of my grammar and spelling, and some good content suggestions. But I would appreciate any other perspectives, especially anyone with some technical background on Docker and package management stuff, to give me a bit of a fact check in case there's anything that I've missed or misrepresented. Yeah, I think that mostly covers it.
Oh, Jyoti has just reminded me of something as well. Thank you very much, Jyoti. We do need folks to describe how they look on camera as well for folks who are not able to view the video. So I will thank you very much for the reminder, Josie. I really appreciate that. So I will go first. I am a white woman in her mid-30s. I've got a yellow background and a very cluttered room behind me. I have brown and white hair. I'm wearing round glasses, and today I'm in a grey jumper because it's cold. And Richard, would you be able to just describe yourself retroactively or describe what people can see of your video?
Yeah, I prefer to remain off camera. So if you're looking at me in the Zoom video, then you just have a little audio visualizer and a avatar with some biological images in the background, some macromolecular structures in nice artistic renders. So yeah, disembodied voice.
Great. Thank you very much, Richard. A round of applause for getting the getting your PR open and ready for review. Does anyone have any questions for Richard at all?
Richard, what was the hardest part of putting together this issue and pull request?
I think one of the tricky things to kind of portray with this subject is so a lot of the tools that we use now, things like Docker and many of the package managers like Conda and the package like language specific package managers, they all do kind of an imperfect and incomplete job of capturing our compute environments. But they are also quite easy to use and quite practical. Whereas there are many advantages to using the functional package managers, but they have quite a steep learning curve. And they capture a much more complete version of the environment, but there are some limitations. So if your tool isn't packaged in them, you kind of have to learn a little bit about how to package stuff from them. So I was trying to make sure I did a good job of sort of presenting a balanced case of these solve a bunch of problems, but there are still issues for adoption of these tools. So I kind of, one of the things I like to encourage people to think about is just to be aware of their existence, to see if they work for their use case, and to package their software for them if they're producing software, so that people who are using these tools will have less work to do going forward. So I don't know if I've managed to sort of capture that dichotomy of it may be more practical to use the imperfect tools for now, but to be aware of the fact that these other options exist. So yeah, trying to tackle that with a bit of in theory, this is nice. In practice, there's some challenges.
So then maybe my follow-up question to that was that how were you able to limit your own bias in the way that you, for example, build your own system? Because as someone that is like has your own preferences on how to build, how are you able to translate like your own preferences into a general kind of guidance for others? I would find that very tricky to be able to share as comprehensively as possible, while also having like an idea of what I think folks should be doing.
I mean, to a degree, that's for the reviewers to judge how effective I've been and actually restraining myself on that front. But I always attempt to do my best to be kind of presenting it from a neutral position there. And I think the case I'm trying to make for the merits of the approach of functional package managers is quite robustly backed by the facts, right? They've got a bunch of features that just don't really exist in other approaches. So I think there's a good case for why this is like a better approach in theory. But I think, as I said before, like in practice, it's still got a way to go for usability, for wider adoption. But a part of getting that increased usability is growing the community of users to get feedback upstream and awareness of the existence of these tools. Yeah, I've tried to the usual degree that I do whenever I'm presenting any kind of academic topic to keep my personal biases out of it. But that's a challenging thing to essay for oneself, the degree of success.
Oh yeah, we have another question from the room from.
Sorry, I'm just jumping on that. The question is about the wide adoption and the packaging of software you talked about. Are there some AI systems tools that can help lower the barrier or make it easier for non-experts to be able to package the software in a quite effective way? I don't know, perhaps you've already mentioned that, but
so the answer to that, I think, is a bit of yes and no. This doesn't necessarily lower the barrier to packaging software in the first place, but it does, in a sense, lower the barrier to reproducible computational environments once software is packaged in this fashion. Because when you're trying to create a reproducible computational environment with tools like Docker and virtual machines, you end up having to learn a wide variety of different tools. You have to learn how to use Docker. You have to learn how to use whatever your VM machine is. You have to learn to use all of the language-specific package managers. If you use a functional package manager, you can learn that. And in theory, you don't need to learn anything else. because it can package the entire system. It can produce a VM image if you have VM images to run that environment on, or a container image if you need a container image. So it's sort of a way of addressing a problem that previously required a bunch of different tools to address with a single tool. So once it's got to the point where enough stuff is packaged correctly, it kind of makes it easier to use. But it's slightly more challenging to package stuff for functional package managers because they are written in functional languages, which is not the style of programming most people tend to learn. So they tend to be a bit non-intuitive to learn, and they do describe a very a complete build process, as it were. So you have to describe the complete process to build your package from source and using dependencies within the functional package manager. So it tends to be a bit of a slightly higher hurdle to learning to package stuff with it. But once you have, it's not really much different from learning to package software in any other language. It's just that it's in a new language. So a little bit tricky. So yeah, yes and no. Sorry for being too bit long-winded there. Yeah.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Any more questions at all from folks? Okay, amazing. Another round of applause for Richard, please. Thank you very much for sharing. Really appreciate you doing all that work. It's very cool. Right, next up on the list is Lele.
Oh. Yes, to start with. Hi, everyone. Hello, I'm Lele Demerzi. I work as a research project manager for the Turing Way over the past 6-7 months. Currently, I have a wooden window frame behind me. My hair are brown, long and curly, and I'm wearing a dark blue t-shirt with my office badge on. What did I do today? We were preparing for a live merge, but it happened so that we were a little bit hasty, so we ended up merging by accident.
But you can show it in the book?
Absolutely. That was my next mitigation attempt, and for some reason, I don't find what I created in the book, so I'm gonna show it to you from my deploy preview. So, since the Turing Way has evolved quite organically with contributions coming from very different guides, from reproducibility to communication to collaboration and ethical research, sometimes we found that resources are more difficult to find or to navigate, and this is why we started curating pathways for different roles to find exactly what is more necessary to their line of work, more relevant to their line of work. Last week, we started working on community management pathways, and very early on, we realized that we needed to disambiguate between the concepts relevant to community management, but also the operational side of things. How can you actually get things done in the Turing Way? So last week, we managed to create our first pathway, which is all about different notions and concepts that can be found useful. And today, I managed to finish this operational community management guide with different. Someone to mute. Excellent. And what did I want to mention regarding this? Yes, also as we move on, as we change our governance structure and we are establishing the community management working group, and we are consolidating all the different bits and pieces of community management within the Turing Way that we want to keep doing moving forward, this would be a very useful resource for us to keep things on track.
We still have a chair for you.
That's about it from me. So I would love Raizani if you could get background in community management. It would be lovely to hear if these resources are helpful, or if you find any gaps for chapters that we should write or that we should revisit. Yeah, any questions?
Amazing. Thank you very much, Lele. Huge round of applause for Lele's hard work on the getting this into the book, and also just a shout out to the folks who were collaborating on this last week as well, curating all of the different things at the collaborations workshop as well. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from
Lele, I do have a question, sorry, in the room. Because I saw Lele struggle, so I want her to explain what general challenges people should be aware of when editing a pathway YAML file, the profile YAML file.
Trailing spaces, comes out.
White spaces.
Yes, and what has been super helpful, because I've never worked with YAML files before, is the YAML limiting validator that Ariel shared on the first day of the book test, and has been my go-to tab ever since.
As somebody who also knows the pain of accidental unintentional white spaces and just general linting difficulties with YAML. A story that will continue in other people's share out going forward. Wonderful. Yep, Liz also experiences this. Kirsty, you've got a question, and then Malvika, I'll come back to you for your question, if that's okay.
Oh, my question is done.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to highlight that the content other people have said, so helpful, really amazing. Thank you so much for working on that, making that more discoverable, kind of consolidating it. Absolutely love it. I was also wondering if someone would give me like a 2 sentences on what is a pathway, because I think at the moment when I go to that, it might be just a curated list of chapters, but I wonder if it's actually something a little bit more magical than that.
Share screen and show the chapter.
Yes, I think it would be helpful to demonstrate by resharing my screen. We should be on the right way. So in the Turing Way sidebar, you can find different suggestions on how to structure your own adventure within the Turing Way. So practically a pathway is a table of contents that consolidates all the information that can be most relevant to you based on your profile. So a data steward will find different resources more useful than a project leader or an early career researcher or a first-time researcher or a community manager or a software engineer. And of course, there are all these resources that people should be aware of anyway, but this is a curated list of the resources that we deem more reasonably relevant to the work of these people. And of course, if you would like to start a new pathway, feel free to reach out to me, because
Can you also show community handbook actually has description of all of these things and how to do it?
we do.
Yes.
You see, maybe we should add that in one pathway.
The pathway feature in the Turing Way.
Pathway feature in the there and sorry, here. And I'm gonna set it on the chat as well, so that you can learn a bit more about pathways.
Yeah, so just to say, this is something we did actually last week during the collaboration workshop. Jim and I sat down to make sure that the meta practices are also there. We described what pathways are and why people should be using. We also created a chapter on describing how to curate chapters and why to make it collaborative curation and not just one person's opinion. We also drafted another subchapter on examples from Data Science Without Borders and a workshop that I had run to show like there are different kinds of curation one can do, and maybe Lele and Emma might want to write how they curated community management. And then Jim has also provided technical details in the infrastructure chapter, which is linked in this chapter. So once you start doing it, it will tell you like, you know, if you follow these 5 steps, it will take you eventually to how to update profile.yaml, which is on point 3. So hopefully you would take some time. Not you per se. I think you know. You asked this question
I
for the
think
community.
so. I'll jump in because this is super helpful. No, and I should take some time to have a read through it. Absolutely. The thing that there was a vision a few years ago. I think it was your vision, Malvika, that a pathway would like kind of only show you those chapters. So you'd have like your own sort of magic kind of version of the Turing Way, and you wouldn't get overwhelmed by all of these other chapters that were there. And I suppose the piece that I think I'm missing, but it's completely legitimate to say that we're not there yet, because that's one of the reasons that I'm asking it, is the difference between like a page that just sort of puts some links into chapters versus something that's like a little bit more magical and kind of like does something in the background and kind of only shows you those chapters. So are we like on a journey to that vision?
No, this was a decision made in 2022. I was working with May Young from Research Software Engineering team and her team members who were helping me develop this Python package. They explored different ways to create pathway. And one of the option was deploying a different Netlify page. Back then we were using Netlify. We still use Netlify, I think, yes. So we were, just creating a new book per pathway, and that was a smaller book, but that was extremely clunky. It needed a lot more separate maintenance. It wasn't as dynamic as just having a page that is embedded within the workflow of Jupyter. And it just really didn't feel that it was a cohesive experience with the Turing Way overall. It just felt like people are creating their own book and never engaging with the Turing Way, which we didn't want. But also we wanted to create something which could be maintained by the community, used by the community very, very easily. So the Python package only requires people to update the pathway, profiles.yaml file. They don't need to take care of anything. If they add a chapter, they can create that pathway. So we kind of went with maintainability long term versus dependency on Netlify. Also, we had needed to have like an advanced Netlify account to serve multiple links, which we didn't think was possible, or we didn't want to depend on Netlify as a way to maintain our resources in long term, because Jupyter Book isn't dependent on Netlify. And we also tried to kind of build metadata information to, that was probably another thing we tried to do, that each chapter would have their own metadata. Each metadata would have their tag, and the tag would allow to do. But then the search button of Jupyter is so great that it kind of defeated the purpose. I think some of these experiments are recorded in the original repository where we developed the package, but we didn't take that path per se.
So I'll put my hand back up and then we should move on. I just wanted to let you know for folks, and maybe some folks already know, others don't. One of the partnerships that we're building in Berkeley for the Berkeley Institute of Data Science is with the Jupyter Book team and with the MIST team. And so one of the reasons that I was asking the question is because last week I was learning a whole bunch of things about what MIST can nearly do. It can't quite do it now, but it like they're on the trajectory to being able to do it. And one of the pieces that they're designing towards is actually taking one piece of content but serving it in multiple different locations. And so basically I just wanted to kind of, what I can do is I can flag that this might be something that is, we may actually be able to go back to the original vision without all of those speed bumps, all of those logical reasons to reject it 2 years ago in 6 months' time. So anyway, that's like just
I did see
conversations going on.
Jupyter Book actually has their documentation where I haven't really experimented that myself, but I was deploying Jupyter Book for Data Science Without Borders internal, policy, et cetera, so we can have a central place where we link out to the Turing Way curated chapters, because coming to Turing Way it's not super easy anymore. So when I was reading the documentation, it does say that you can potentially cross-reference chapters from different Jupyter books. So I think they're already deploying that, which is really interesting, and I would keep an eye out for that. But also, someone from Jupyter Book is already connected with Jim and Sarah, so they're aware of this feature and they kind of like this feature. So it's possible that there is something in between or both that we use.
Yeah, exactly. Exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lily. Huge round of applause, and thank you to Malvika as well for writing up all of the documentation on how one does these pathways as well. That's great work. Okay, heading over now to Jyoti.
Hello everyone. I'll share my screen to share about my contribution this time around. Firstly, a description of myself. I am an Asian woman in my late 20s. I'm wearing a headset and a square frame glasses, and I'm wearing a red shirt, and I'm in my home office at the moment. I'm based in India, and it's around 10 p.m. over here. So that's the visual description. And this time around, I continued working on the issue that I started working on during November 2024 Book Dash. And this was about creating a subchapter on personal websites. So here's the PR that I completed in the last 2 days. Last time around, I had reviews from quite a few people from the community, and this time as well, they shared their suggestions on my PR. I incorporated all of those, and the PR is merged, and here's how it looks in the live book. So in the guide for communication, there's a subchapter called personal websites, and I have added a summary of why personal websites are required, what's the motivation and background. And then I followed by adding some common frameworks that are used for rendering personal websites. And I have divided these into no-code, low-code options, as well as the high-code frameworks. And last time during November Book Dash, I was collaborating on this with Sebastian, who is also in this call, and Johanna. So yeah, here's the PR merged into the chapter. That's about it for me.
Amazing. Big round of applause for Jyoti. Well done on coming back and getting the PR actually merged and into the book. We've got a few comments in the chat. Sarah saying this is so helpful. Going to be using this. Huge thank you from Liz. Do we have any other questions? Hands up. I have one question, Jyoti, which is which of these frameworks do you use for your personal website?
I'm using for mine, I'm using R, and I haven't mentioned that over here. I'm using RDistill, but I'm planning to move over from that in a few months because a lot of features are outdated, and another framework from R is available, which is Quarto, and which looks much better than Distill, and also has many more features and many more frameworks. Besides, I also have experience in using Hugo, and I have found it to be quite nice. Also, during the collaborations workshop, I tried my hand for the first time at Django website generator. And I found that these examples that I have stated initially, these are static website generators. So they'll give you a static website, whereas Django one will give you a dynamic website, and it also requires more maintenance on the back end along with databases. So that's a slight difference between static websites and dynamic websites.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jyoti.
Thank you.
Anyone else got any questions or points they want to make on this?
I have a question. Yeah, maybe what would be the next steps like that you envision to add? Maybe what would be the next sub chapters or new things that you would want to add?
Um, Initially I had thought that I would give a list of a framework so that, and I've also linked those to their user guides. So people can go and check out those links. So that's the current stage, and I'm happy to hear back any feedback and add on some more material to the chapter.
Yeah, maybe something that comes into my mind would be maybe to organize this on a table, maybe, and kind of separate them by the different categories and maybe some small kind of descriptions of maybe, yeah,
Ah,
that would be
okay,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe, yeah.
yeah, that's a good idea. I'll note it.
Love it. Okay, great. Well, Sebastian, you can open an issue and somebody can get cracking on that as an idea for an update already. Amazing.
Yeah.
Any final questions for Jyoti?
I was wondering because the question about what you use for your website was already asked. I did have a follow-up question, which is why this chapter? Where did the idea come from?
This idea, when it comes to communication, personal branding is also quite important, and hence the idea of personal websites.
Totally.
Yeah, while we were working on this, people also shared their GitHub profiles and how they have customized it, and I found that to be really cool. I saw someone make if you remember, there's a snake game in old Nokia mobile phones, and someone made a snake in their GitHub
Yes.
contributions box. So wherever you have a contribution on those dates, the snakes would move. So I found that to be really interesting. So that is also one way to share about your work out there.
So it sounds like there's a big vision for like a personal branding section of this guide for communication. Because so true. I mean, I remember learning about SEO for the first time years ago and going, oh man, so that actually determines whether or not people are able to find my work. It's a lot of scope to expand this. Really cool.
Yeah. I can add some issues from this discussion right away.
Awesome. Another round of applause for Jyoti. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for getting such an important chapter in the book. Wonderful. Okay, next up, I'm handing over to Sebastian.
Okay. Yes. Okay. First, the description. I am a Latino man with curly hair, wearing glasses, like in a room, kind of white, kind of wall behind me. And okay, I will share the screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, so yeah, on this book dash, I decided to contribute to the image gallery for the Scrivener images that the Turingway has. So yeah, there were a lot of discussions before about creating this this gallery. There were someone else working on this, and they created a really nice kind of first idea of this, a demo using Shiny. But this was kind of independent of the book, so there was someone that suggested that we can create a mist kind of directive. This is a script that allows you to automate that, and added this as a subchapter inside the book. So yeah, I thought that it would be a nice idea, and I really like the Scribera images, and I use it a lot on presentations that I gave. But for me, it's kind of difficult to go through every Zenodo release and look for the one that I like. So I really think that this could be useful. So first, first I kind of created this image gallery script in a repo. And this is kind of a demo of how it looks like. And I use some of the Scrivener images. And this is it's in its own repository. And then based on this, I created a PR to add this into the book. As a, I suggested to have it as a subchapter on the forward section, on the final section of the book. And in the beginning, it was there were some issues because it was not showing up. And it was really cool that I have the support from August. He helped me to kind of correct the code, and also then Sarah and Jim also helped me out with some feedback. So for now, this is kind of the preview on how it would look like. So for now, it's on the afterword, on the final section. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the correct part to add it, but we can discuss about it later. So yeah, for the also I was working also with Reshima and Ale because to create this this gallery, we need a YAML file that contains the information about the images. So we need to have the for each image kind of what is the file name, the alt text, and the tags. And Ale and Reshima were working on this. And I used one of the the preliminary version of this YAML file that they created to build this kind of first example of the image gallery. But this is also something that it needs to be done, and we will be working together probably to finish it. And yeah, for the next steps, I think that it's right now I added this as a Python script inside the book. But Sarah and Jim said that it would be better to have it like in its own repo, and maybe it's better to have it on the Turing Way organization. So the next step would be to create the repo on the Turing organization and put it, migrate my code from my personal repo to there, and then add some improvements suggested by August, and then call this script from there into the book. And then I think that, yeah, that will be it. And yeah, I think that this is it.
Amazing. This is such great work from you and Reshma and Ale as well, and building on Niha's work from a couple of book dashes ago as well. And yeah, I agree with Liz's comment here that hopefully searchable alt text will help everyone and make it so much easier to write the alt text. Kirsty, you've got your hand up for a question, and then we can go to other folks as well if you'd like to ask anything.
Oh yeah. So I again mostly want to say this, like, so helpful. Thank you so much. Absolutely amazing. Have folks been discussing whether this should be a collection of images specific to the Turing Way, or is it useful to be a collection of images related to open research, and then other projects would be able to add theirs as well? And I think the way that question started actually in my head was, is this a page inside of the Turing Way, or should this be kind of its own standalone resource because it's so like it's just so valuable? And there are lots of other sort of images from other communities and artists and things like that, but they're very difficult to discover in search. So yeah, just wanted to mostly say thank you so much, and yeah, curious to know what people have been brainstorming.
Malvika, is this a response to Kirsty or a different question? You're on mute in Marian.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Kirsty, I really for a long time, I was hoping that we can just directly partner with Good Images of AI and upload our images, because I think they're doing that independent thing. But what we also, I think we are in good connection with them, but what we also learned that there are some metadata that they require we need to have in place. And I think this could be a nice way to build that metadata in the Turing way and then push that in the Good Images of AI. But I completely agree. I think not everybody will find these images if it's still, it's only inside the Turing way. So it would be nice to connect out.
Or maybe it's both, right? Like, because I could also imagine people being like, oh, but I don't do AI, I do reproducible research, so I wouldn't go over that. So I feel like this is what I've been having conversations with the sort of MIST folks about, is like, how do you network up an ecosystem of people who are all doing important, exciting work?
Yes, and regarding the question, yeah, the idea is to have this as a standalone plugin that other kind of people can use, not necessarily just on the Turingway project, but have it as a standalone the plugin that in any Jupyter book or MIST project you can use it.
Yeah, that's really cool, Sebastian, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. But I'm mostly, like, for right now, I'm just really stoked about the fact that we're gonna have something that's much more searchable for Scriberia images. So I'm just generally really happy about that. And we've got one more question here, and then I think we can move on.
Maybe a question around how you guys are thinking about the relationship with the Zenodo archive of the images. Yeah, question number one. And then question number two, if that's okay, is around how you all work together. So it was an amazing experience, and to see, one person working in the morning on one component in the last sessions yesterday, then another person working on another component, another session, and another person working on another component, and you are in 3 different time zones working on different components of all of this. So for the official YouTube record, I would love to learn more about what that process of collaboration was like too.
Maybe Ale, do you want to add something? Maybe you can answer first, and then add something.
I am going to respond to the little contributions that I made, because actually, let's face it, most of it has been done by Sebastian. So wow, this is like, I think we all dreamed about this for a long time, and now seeing this live is like, wow, this is above the expectations. What happened is that I think we all share this interest of finding the images quickly, and I had I was lucky that I knew where most of the alt text and most of the tags were located in our Google Drive document. So and then Reshama came on board, and she started, and then Jean suggested to start working on a YAML directory that then another person with more technical capacity could take in to test the new MIST model. So we started working in the most simple thing I just put the library, like all the alt text together in a single document. Then Reshama came and developed the YAML directory. And actually, I will appreciate if everyone can put more content on that YAML directory, because the more content we have there, the better, the more images we will be able to have available. And it will be great if in the next Collaborations Cafe, we could have Liz or other accessibility team members to review the way that we have, because there are long alt text and short alt text, and also like keywords tags to be able to find them. But that's based on people, that's based on our own interpretation. But if you have anything to correct, please feel free to do it. And actually, let's help us to expand this. So yeah, Reshama helped in this part, and then Sebastian came, he did some extraordinary magic last night. And then this morning, I was seeing all the interactions between Jim, Sarah, Angus, and it was like, yeah, and then suddenly we haven't. So I don't know exactly how, but I guess it's the real power and the magic of the Book Dash and the collaboration, of course. Does that answer your question?
I'm so glad to hear your experience. It's so amazing.
And Zenodo.
Oh,
sorry.
Zenodo. I think Zenodo is good to have now because actually Zenodo is our main library. The truth is that we don't have alt text for all the images. We only have alt text for the last three or four book dashes.
Yeah.
So I think like for any non-technical person, it would be a great job to start working on that.
But also Zenodo is like how we have all the images in our GitHub repository anyway. So it's not either or. Zenodo provides us DOI. You would still use it and cite it that way. And Zenodo would always have like the original sized image, whereas in GitHub we don't want to have heavy. Maybe question for Sebastian. Where are you pulling the images from? Is it from Zenodo or from the GitHub repository?
It is for now is from the GitHub repository, just from the images that have information in the YAML. So it has we just take the information from the YAML and then
Pull that.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Kirsty, you have a hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think as a dream stretch, having the images in different places is harder to maintain. So I think like there's a dream of trying to get everything kind of into the Zenodo repository, and that would involve also having the alt text, also having the small sizes, kind of really like I think there's kind of like a real revamp of that Zenodo repository that kind of puts everything there. But I also want to be very clear that like this is great. This is great. And that's, just continuing in the sort of along this almost like perfect being the enemy of the good sort of journey of if there's a perfect vision of everything working, but I'm thinking about Richard's kind of chapter at the start, like in many cases the perfect tool or workflow literally doesn't exist yet, right? Like maybe so no one should over-index on my kind of dream of having all the images inside of Zenodo version controlled, keeping the repository nice and sort of tidy. Although I'm now realizing that I think one of the reasons that we don't do that is because it takes a long time to pull all of them. So when you build the book, it's really difficult. So there's like a caching problem as well. So, which is all to say, the dream, I think, is too perfect. This is amazing.
Thank you very much. Any final questions for Sebastian or Ale on this? Awesome. Huge round of applause. Well done. Kirsty, did you in fact have a final question?
No. So I have to go to another meeting in 5 minutes. So I'm not going to be able to stay through to the very end. And I was wondering if I could just share something, because I'm realizing that there's a piece of context that a lot of my comments are coming from that a lot of people don't know. Would you mind if I jump in just real quick? And then I'm very, very sorry that I'll miss some of the updates for the last one. So I'll just very quickly say, because I think I know everyone here, but I'm Kirsty. I've been on my phone for this call, walking through extremely sunny, beautiful Berkeley, California. I have like my blonde hair tied back in a ponytail and sort of outrageously large black sunglasses on. So I look like a sort of, cartoon character at the moment. And the piece that I wanted to share is that last week I was at the Capital S Scientific Python Developer Summit. And what's really fascinating about Capital S Scientific Python is that Capital S Scientific Python is a project to coordinate and support the lowercase s Scientific Python ecosystem. So lowercase s Scientific Python is all of the libraries about doing science using the Python programming language, and capital S Scientific Python is a community project that looks to support and kind of coordinate across all of those. And what's really fascinating about it is that it's actually it's implemented in a very different way. It's got a very different culture to the Turing way. Its target audience is for very, very advanced maintainers, and we're hitting a much sort of broader audience. But the genesis of the project is literally identical to the Turing way, which is like helping people to figure out how to contribute to open source and not having the same documentation or the same advice in lots of different GitHub repositories or websites all over the world. So it's amazing to work on like I said, the culture, the scope, the ways of working are sort of noticeably quite different, but that's because the people that make up the community are quite different, but the purpose is very, very much aligned. And so the reason I wanted to kind of share that is because along with, there's a continuous science in retreat that I'm going to in Canada next week. That is, so I'm sort of representing Jupyter Book and the sort of Turing Way kind of ecosystem there. And then we also have a Jupyter Hub leadership retreat that's happening the week after. So I'm like running like a lot of sort of convening events at the moment. But the core thread is thinking about how we interoperate across the ecosystem. So really not try and kind of build one project to solve them all, but what is the Turing Way good at, and making sure that the Turing Way does that work well. What is PyOpenSci good at, and making sure that PyOpenSci is really enabled to do that well. Scientific Python, MIST, Jupyter, Jupyter Hub, things like that. So I just wanted to kind of share that piece of a little sort of mini update from me, that I'm still very much thinking about the Turing Way and thinking about our purpose in this sort of broader open source, scientific open source ecosystem.
Great, thank you very much, Kirsty. Awesome. Any thoughts or reflections on that before we go to the final person to share? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up or anything like that. You can find Kirsty on Slack. So if you have more thoughts, then you can go to her. But now we move to our final presenter, who is me. I've been here the whole time. Let me just share my screen and let it load. My laptop is being very slow at the moment, bless it. It is struggling. But hopefully it will be screen sharing. You gotta
happens.
Ariel, I think we need another Turing Way sticker that says the little computer that could. The loading sign.
Yes.
let's try that again. My laptop is very tired, bless it. Let me just try and screen share. We'll try this again and hopefully it doesn't crash this time around. I realize it's probably still loading. Can anyone see? Is it coming through? Yay! It's loaded. Amazing. Great. So just as a reminder, my name is Ariel. I'm a white woman in her mid-30s with a yellow room behind me with a cluttered background. I've got my brown and white hair tied back and wearing some round glasses, and I've got a grey jumper on today because it's cold. And I actually wanted to share something that I was working on last week. I've spent a lot of time reviewing a bunch of stuff, including Richard, who heroically has discovered how much I love commas when I'm reviewing things. but has manfully put all of my suggested commas back in. This chapter, for those of you who are unaware, I'm a senior researcher now, but previously I was a program manager and a project manager before that. And the screen share that I'm sharing at the moment is a chapter on project management frameworks that I didn't start. It was opened by, the pull request was opened by one of our research application managers, Callie Westerling. They have sadly left the Turing now. We miss them quite a lot. But this was opened back in November 2023. It provides an overview of different project management frameworks. And we did a lot of work on it back in November 2023. And then we didn't quite get around to sorting it out for quite some time. And then I finally was like, no, I'm going to get this sorted. I want to get it done. And so we went through and we updated things. And Batul, who sadly can't be here today, gave me a review. She's done a lot of work on writing this up as well. And finally, we have the project management frameworks overview in the book. And I've already realized that the citation is not building correctly for some reason, but we'll figure that out. But this is a lot of work. It took a while to get the this giant table of comparisons of different methodologies and frameworks into a state where it was displayable. And the long-term goal is to have each of these methodologies have a subchapter on them as well, so that you will be able to see the water, you'll be able to click on waterfall and go and find out more about waterfalls, so that it de-jargonizes some of these different things as well. So that was what I was working on last week. I'm hoping it will be very useful. I wanted to go back and take a look at some of the older PRs and things that we have to try and tidy things up and just sort of see if people were interested in taking them back on and actually getting them over the line to make sure that all of the work that they've already done on it is actually reflected. But yeah, there is another HackMD with a treasure trove of information, and so one of the things that we'll be working on, I as someone in their mid-30s, I'm not agile. I can't do it. I try with my yoga, but I can't do it. So yeah, the ask is, if anybody does want to take a look at the HackMD and start writing up some of these sub chapters, that will be a project for another time. But yeah, you're all very welcome to sort of dig in and then start having a think about how we explain them, and maybe some examples of how people have used different methodologies successfully in their own work would also be a really good idea as well. So yeah. I'm going to stop sharing. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
No, it's really great that you picked the issue up, and that should, like, I think Lele was saying this morning, and I really agree with her. This book dash feels like we're kind of being, where we don't want to just go and write another new chapter, which is always exciting. We're really going back to the roots and making sure that people have documentation that they need, or we had recognized several years ago. So thank you for picking that up. I think we should probably just have a book dash about going to an issue from 2020 to 2025, 2023, like there are so many. So thank you for taking that on. It's going to be really helpful. And maybe it can go to your pathway on community management operations.
Absolutely.
Oh,
or maybe
yeah.
I start another one for project managers.
Yeah, sure.
That should be, yeah. I feel like for project managers, my advice is definitely just read the whole thing. As a former project manager, just read it. It'll help you. But yeah, it is fun to pick some stuff up again. Obviously, I would love for folks who were the original like instigators of the ideas to pick it up, but it's can be tough to pick things up after so long. So I was happy to help get it over the line. And really, my edits were minimal, but it was a case of getting it over and making sure it was reviewed and then getting it merged as well. So yeah, look forward to doing that a bit more in the future.
Were there any frameworks? Oh, sorry, Ariel.
Yeah,
Were there
yeah,
any
go for it.
frameworks that you didn't know about? Like I had no idea there was something called Waterfall or Prince 2. What is this?
Oh, yeah, it's very project manager.
Ariel
Prince
is
too.
certified in Prince 2. How dare you do that?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm
Why
certified
Prince
in-
2?
There
Right,
was a
so-
Prince.
So yeah, so there was a Prince one. So you can definitely read some of these, and this is, I feel like origin stories is a great thing to put in the subchapters. But just very quickly, so waterfall is largely how a lot of projects by default operate. You start out and you say, we are going to do this thing, and then you do it in a very linear sequence, and at the end of it you have the things that you said you were going to do at the beginning. Theoretically, that's theoretically how waterfall works, and it's all very staged. Jyoti doesn't like waterfall. Jyoti thinks agile is the best. I would love to do agile, but I've never seen anybody who actually implements agile properly. So if you've found the one organization that does implement agile properly, then congratulations, that's amazing. Prince 2 as well, because I am certified in it. It's a whole week-long course, it's a whole thing. Was developed by the British Civil Service specifically around large IT projects. So that's kind of its philosophical basis for this, and it's sort of structured around that. But so I ran a training program, a training session recently, where I was like, all project management frameworks have slightly different philosophies about different things, but they really have a lot of things in common, which is like understanding who should be involved and when, understanding what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, identifying risks and issues and blockers and dealing with them, and then like controlling the like quality control and things like that. So there's like, that's largely what I'd say, is that most frameworks are just like variations on that theme with different underpinning philosophies. So yeah.
So could you start your own framework? Like if we were like, okay, guys, we're gonna start our own project management framework because of the amount, the Turing Way framework. How do we get
You
into that?
totally, you absolutely could do. I would like, most of these as well, I have to say, like the different frameworks, they're all there for interpretation, and very few people run like a strict Prince 2. Like I'm certified in it, and I've never run a project I would describe as like fully Prince 2 approach. And it's the same with things like agile. A lot of companies will say, oh, we're working in an agile way, and the actual answer is you're not working in an agile way. And then occasionally you have to have conversations with engineering teams that are working agilely, and you say things like, we need to have a roadmap, and they're like, but we can't have a roadmap, we're working agilely. And then you're like, but the investors need to know what's coming up, and they're like, but we don't know what's coming up because we work agilely. And then you go round and round in circles for a few weeks with each other as well. So yeah, my main advice is have a read through of some of these, and then pick the bits that you like from different ones. That's my honest advice as a project manager. But we do go into things that in the table, there are things like how useful might it be in research project theoretically as well.
Ariel,
Okay.
can I do the final report?
Yeah.
out?
Yeah,
My
yeah,
laptop's gonna die. I don't want to scare people. I'm going to start by sharing something I shared in the morning report out. I grabbed Ariel and we finalized our schedule for Fireside Chat series, which I'm very excited about. We discussed why we need Fireside Chat series. And need is probably a stretch. It's always nice to have spaces where we can learn about new things. So governance is something we're working on in the Turing Way. And we want to involve external partners in advising us around best practices in governance. And we thought, Fireside Chat, why should we do one-on-one call with them and we can have public conversation? So I will share my screen and just show you a few bits, and then I'll also tell you about a chapter that I'm writing. So this is the Fireside Chat series, and the reason why I'm showing it because we need your help. We have some topics already decided. The names of speakers are written when they have confirmed. So there are a few people who have yet to confirm. We have some dates because some people are very organized, unlike me. But we also have a few more dates coming up for different months. We are collaborating with Software Sustainability Institute. So Oscar C, who's the community manager there, would be helping us to engage Software Sustainability Institute fellows, because we thought that we shouldn't just like focus on the Turing Way, we should focus on broader open source ecosystem so other people who are new to governance can still engage with it. So Ariel and I will be supporting, but honestly, we would love if more people can facilitate. We generally like to have 2 facilitators. So even if Ariel and I, one of us would be there, and I don't promise I'll be there for all of them. If you are interested, please do join, let us know. You can comment on this issue or directly reach out to Ariel and I. We are also looking for a scribe for each of these events, because one of the things we missed last time was we ran so many interesting Fireside Chat, but we never actually documented that in the book. And this time we want to do it systematically. We want to scribe each of the conversation, document that somewhere so our steering committee can reference them, but other people can reference them too. So that's one of the things. You already saw the pathway chapters that Jim, I, and Precious worked on last week and this week. The final thing that I want to show, which is very much in development, we have been talking about that a lot of, no, this is not the right one. I'm going to just go back to here. It's one of the most recent, this is the 501. Collaboration and partnership with the Turing Way. We know that there are lots of partners in the community. We like them, we work with them, we invite them to give talks, and we talk about them in presentation, but we don't have it documented. And now that we will be actively seeking funding, it's important that we show this very actively. And I have lots of people who have shared testimonials, and these testimonials, a lot of them come from the partners. So I have documented a chapter, which is currently in HackMT, because I'm still like organizing my thoughts. But that's not here. So what I'm writing is all the different partners we've had. So research engineering team from East Science Center. I'm adding the testimonial that they shared, just a chunk of it so people can go and read full. Data stewardship by Esther, TU Delft, Lena Karbovskaya. We have Amsterdam here, Data Science Without Border, NHS Way, then domain-specific contextualization through environmental data science. And then we also have, people who don't directly collaborate, but it's a sense of solidarity on that, we will cross-reference each other. But we also have fellowship. And after that, I also was thinking like, how can I go and ask for money? So I'm still thinking about writing this. All of these chapters have to be separated into different sub-chapters. But the reason why I'm showing this is, if you want to help me write this, if you have partnered with us and I don't really know, please do reach out to me and help me get these chapters in the book. Or if you're just interested in reviewing this so you can go and advocate. So my ask is, beyond all these partnerships that we know, what do you need to advocate for the Turing Way in your institution? And what you need based on that, we can try to also include those guidance in this chapter. So that's it.
Awesome, Malvika. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts for Malvika?
What's the hardest part of writing this chapter?
It's not hard at all because don't we all have to answer that way? It's not hard because we know these people for so many years. The hardest part is to cut down the text so people would still read it. And I know that if I would go and ask them, they would write it too, but I want to minimize that because they've already done like talks and presentations. So I can go to community forum, take recording and write about it, and we also have slides. So this is not hard. I think the hard part would be the funder section. The funder section, because we have not been very good at going out and finding money because we never needed to. In fact, we were like blocked from. So now we have to unlearn those behavior and go and actively advocate our community members, because some of the examples that we have from Carlos, Lena, and Esther is that they literally said that we had managers who were very nice, and these managers were very happy for me to use the Turing Way, and they understood why Turing Way needs to be maintained, so they allowed me to work on Turing Way. So sometimes we just need to empower people to talk to their manager. If their managers are not great, like, well, then if you still want to engage with Turing Way, there has to be volunteer capacity, but we want to reduce the volunteerism as much as possible so the people can work as part of their job. So these examples are really nice. But then things like Data Science Without Borders, which I was involved in writing the proposal, so I could write, I could scope this committee manager role, which was to enable the support for committee members to engage. So Precious is a full-time member. She's a committee manager. And I had to onboard her, but you guys, like, I don't have to help her navigate the Turing Way because she is just a committee member, except for she knows she's funded to do this work. So she can participate in Book Dash committee, she can become part of translation community, and it's been like massive growth for her, like it's a full exposure. So having those kind of roles written into projects where you do need to implement open science, it's a good strategy. So I want to highlight that. And that's why like we're making sure that the Data Science Without Borders is visible in the Turing Way, and that we are talking about Data Science Without Borders. So members who come in the Turing Way don't feel like they're in a strange place, because we're talking about African communities. A lot of them, they're not used to open source ways of working. We talked about internet bandwidth and resource are different. People, you know, it's very hard to build a relationship. It took me 6 months to even get them to talk to me during meetings, because it's not how things work, but it's not impossible. And I think the more exposure they have to the Turing Way, the more they would understand how they can engage with open science. So I feel like it's really important that we make these things very easy to do in Turing Way. Sebastian?
Yes, I have a general question. Yes, right now is this would be what would be the I don't know, the best way to kind of get people to start using the Turing Way in an institution, because now it's like my manager, he's in charge of the informatics platform of the research center I am now, and they have some kind of departments, not departments, but kind of specific things for research data management and also data science. So it would be a useful tool for them, but I'm not sure how it would be the best way to. Yeah.
So are you in Netherlands, Sebastian?
No, now I'm in Denmark.
You're in Denmark.
Copenhagen. Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say I'll fix you up with some local Dutch people to go have coffee with. But Carlos Martinez has written a really nice blog post, which I have linked in my draft, but I'll send it to you, where he describes how he started to advocate for the Turing Way use in ESAN Center, which is a National Center for Research Engineering. One of the things we also did is to curate research engineering chapters. I think the pathway was the example, that you just take the pathway, keep nudging people. The Turing Way, I don't think we do that anymore as much, but when we started, we were so annoying. We would just mention Turing Way in all conversation. We'll reference it and we're like, there's a chapter in it. And like, you know, we made it so easy that we stop being annoying and other people became the annoying people who go and advocate. Sometimes like it's like you show people something until it's actually important for them, because when it's possible that when you're talking about a practice, they don't think it's important, and one day it will be, but you don't want them to forget that this resource exists. So some models we're writing about, Sebastian, you could look at, oh my God, that's true. You could actually help us look at that draft and let me know if that what we are talking about is going to help you do some of these internal resource sharing. But I know you do a lot of mentoring as well. So mentoring was a good tool for like people when they ask you a question, you can only introduce them in 4 sentences of like what version control means. You can't spend 2 hours teaching them how to do version control. So you can point people to say like, you know, here it is. If you have any question, ask me, or here's the Slack of the Turing where you can ask question. I think that like, keep talking. You're our target audience.
Ale.
Just wanted to say that I think, Sebastian, you have a very interesting point with you, because we need to get to convince more of your managers, not only your manager, but more people like your manager, to believe in more people like you being at the Turing Way in their working hours. Because what happens is that if we do that in our spare time, we get exhausted, and then it's not sustainable. So I think at some point maybe we could do a brainstorming session on how can we talk to these research managers. I don't know what's the title of your manager, for example, to convince them that this is a tool that will benefit so many communities around the globe. So yeah, I feel like we need to be very upfront of, we need more people that believe in this and that like don't have any hesitation on asking their team members to spend some time with this.
Ali, that would be a therapy session for a lot of people.
But maybe within the therapy, we can find out answers. Like we can do like a secret agenda of how we make that happen, or I don't know, the mafia, the Turing Way mafia. I love that.
No, but to be honest, that's a general problem of open source, that you need to support open source to use open source, right? Like when you talk about software, when you show this XKCD of all the software that depend on open source tools, you know that if you don't support them, they'll collapse. And I think for the Turing Way, we don't have that image. Maybe we don't need that image. And I think hopefully these case studies could help with that. But I agree, like maybe have some additional for like advocating for your time in open science, not just the Turing Way, but like in open science would be very helpful.
Maybe create a symbol or something that we all can put in our LinkedIn, or I don't know, just be more creative on how to convince more people to
Illuminati.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah, sorry. I feel very safe here. I could say whatever I want. Sorry.
We can cut this part.
Yeah. Yeah, it's recording. Please, let's edit.
Amazing. Thanks very much, folks. Any other thoughts or questions? No, okay. In that case, it just behoves me to say thank you to a few different groups of people. Firstly, thank you to our amazing Book Dash planning committee, without whom we would have not been able to pull off a almost like 2-phase approach to the Book Dash. One phase was at Collaborations Workshop last week. This is the second phase. They've been amazing throughout. They've hosted incredible social sessions. They've been online from 8 a.m. UK time to 10 p.m. UK time. Reviewed applications, mentored people, written up all their stuff themselves, etc., etc. We are going to be convening another planning committee for the November one. We do a new planning committee for every book dash. So if you'd like to join that, keep an eye out because we'll open applications for that so soon because it comes around so soon. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who participated over the past few days and also back at Collaborations Workshop as well, whether you are a first-time contributor or you are coming back to resurrect your 2-year-old pull request. We love you all. It is always such a joy to spend time in these spaces with you all, and like I love listening to people share what brings them joy, having the absolute chaos of the treasure hunt, seeing people work on stuff that they just have a deep and abiding knowledge about is just fantastic. And it's honestly is one of my favorite parts of the community, which is why I keep helping to organize that. I do also want to say a special thank you to Malvika as well, who has been leading from behind the scenes this time, but is just amazing, been so amazing, and is a real incredible part of the Turing Way community, and we're so grateful for all her contributions. She managed
I did nothing, Ariel, by the way. I did not do anything. I don't deserve this credit. I just really enjoyed joining and attending and social interaction.
Malvika turned up.
We all know you here.
Yeah, Malvika, you turned up having written an entire meta documentation chapter about a new feature and also a community handbook chapter draft about partnering with the Turing Way, and you've single-handedly organized like 4 or 5 fireside chats in the last couple of days as well. So I'm afraid.
I think the credit goes back to you all to let me do a deep focus work, which I don't get a lot of chance for. So thanks back to you all. Thank you so much. It's been real pleasure and joy to not be involved and see what community has become. Like I just felt so useless, but at the same time, it is a good trajectory to go where some people who used to be critical are not as critical because community just has wonderful group of leaders. So this time I did 0 and I had the most productive one. So I know people who were running this and they managed to write stuff. I am impressed.
A final shout out to the fact that we do have a feedback form as well. And we would really want to ask everyone to fill in their thoughts. You can do it honestly, it will be anonymous. It really helps the planning committee and the working group to plan for the next book dash. We do take it on board. If you particularly love something or you didn't love something, please just share it and it will really help us to plan. And with that, it's on me to formally close this final share out. A final huge round of applause for all our contributors who both shared now, shared in other sessions, who haven't made it to any of the share outs but still did amazing work as well. I look forward to seeing everyone at an event in the future. And of course, the fun does not stop. We do have collaboration cafes on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of every month, 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. UK time, and you're welcome to drop by and finish off that pesky PR that you opened up this week as well. So thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you at an event in the future.
Bye all. Thank you, Ariel.